peeps, welcome to another video. Today it is my Megan Nielsen Matilda adventure. I have had this pattern for a very long time. I actually saw somebody on Instagram, I think it was the Megan Nielsen Matilda hashtag actually that I saw this on, but they had made this dress up in a green banana leaf fabric and I was just like, oh, I need that. And then I realized what pattern it was and it was just like, oh, wow, I need that even more. It's a really interesting shirt dress. Modern utility style shirt dress with classic tailoring techniques. Pattern features princess seams, drop shoulders, pleated breast pocket on an A-line skirt with roomy statement pockets and collar stand. So all completely up my alley. And I mean, I know I love these pockets because I am wearing these types of pockets today. I went on the hunt for the green banana leaf print fabric. It was from Spotlight and it was completely out of stock, but they did have the blue version, so I bought the blue version. It was quite narrow. I bought 5 meters of it and I've cut out this dress and I have enough to cut out a lining of a bag. It is something to bear in mind. This pattern says that for 115 wide you need 4 meters of fabric, and I think that's pretty accurate. I think I went over just a little bit, but I have done some slight changes to the pattern already. I personally prefer my pockets lined, so I've drafted a lining for both the breast pockets and for the patch pockets on the front. You don't have to do that, it's just my personal preference. I prefer how it looks, so that's what I've done. So that's obviously taken up a little bit more fabric as well, and I tend to ignore lay plans and make it up as I go along. So yeah, the other thing that I have changed about this is I have fully lined the bodice with white cotton lawn. I've cut the yokes for the front and the back out of the blue fabric, but I have cut the kind of lower bodice parts out of white cotton lawn, and that's only because this fabric is ever so slightly rough. Not really, I mean it's you know, it's a very nice cotton, but it is just ever so slightly, I can feel it, and for some reason I have super sensitive skin that just immediately, if anything feels unpleasant on my skin, then I don't wear it. So I know I like the white cotton lawn that I have, so I am going to be fully lining that. That also means that I won't need to pink or French seam any of the interior seams. There is a lot of top stitching in this pattern. I think I am going to go for a bright white. I think that's going to look really cool. Yeah, and I'm going for coconut shell buttons as well because I just really like how they look. I think that they go with everything and I use them on everything. Again, personal preference. They scream kind of summer to me, so all my light summery kind of clothes tend to have a coconut shell button if I don't go for a mother of pearl button. Fabric wise, it recommends light to medium weight dress or shirting fabrics such as cotton, linen, chambray, rayon, silk, etc. Additional fabric may be required to match patterned fabrics. I have not gone for pattern matching on this fabric. I couldn't if I wanted to, because as I say, I only just had enough. Let's get on with Megan Nielsen Matilda and see how we go. I still need to cut out the interfacing for the collar stand and any other bits that, oh, and the front placket as well. I still need to cut those out.
1 hour later.
I have 2 front bodice pieces with pockets and I really like them. My battery's dying yet again. Yes, as I was saying, I really like them. I think they look brilliant and I love the coconut shell buttons on this blue and white and the white top stitching. Usually I'm a bit of a chicken for contrasting top stitching, but I do think it's worth it in this case. So next up we need to do some yokes and then some burritoing.
12 seconds later.
So I have my yoke pieces put together and I think I am going to use, yeah, this is my outside one, just because there's slightly more white in it and I like that. So the next step is to pin and sew the yoke to the back piece. Now, as I mentioned earlier, I am going to be lining my bodice just so that that's a way of finishing the seams, so I didn't have to French seam cut princess seams. Because the yokes get burritoed, it does mean that I'm going to do things a little bit differently to how it's not just going to be bagging out the lining. So what I've got here is my lining piece and my outer piece wrong sides together, and I've pinned them across the top. If you get worried about things shifting, you can totally space this into place. So I am going to sew my yoke to my back piece and I'm going to sew it to both layers of the lining and the outer, because once this is done, I'm still going to burrito the yoke, so I need this lining to be encased in both of the yoke pieces. Hopefully it'll make more sense once I've actually done it. So basically what I'm trying to say is, at this stage you want to have your lining piece and your outer piece wrong sides together, either pinned or basted across the top, ready to sew the outer yoke onto. Let's get that done. The yokes have been burritoed, and I did the same thing with the front lining that I did with the back lining. The only difference is this time I have basted that front edge into place, just to make sure that nothing got caught when I was doing all of the top stitching and yoking and burritoing and all that sort of stuff. Now we need to sew up the side seams, so you're going to just treat these as independent pieces, and you are going to sew the right sides together for both the outer and the lining pieces at the regular seam allowance of 5/8 of an inch. So let me get both of those pinned into place. So that's my outer bodice done, and again these are being pinned together, right sides together. Okay, so I'm going to sew those at 5/8 of an inch and press them open, and then the bodice will be ready for the armbands. Is that what they call them? Sleeve bands. Close.
3 hours later.
I have almost finished. It just needs buttonholes and buttons, but it's really late in the day, so I'm going to continue and finish this off tomorrow, just because I don't want to get anything wrong. And if I'm not concentrating, I sew buttons onto the wrong side of clothes, as we found out earlier this month. So I'm going to carry on with this tomorrow. Next day, buttonholes and buttons, and then we are done. One thing to consider when you're putting in your buttonholes is buttonhole placement. If you find that you end up with your buttonholes gaping, especially across your chest, a good rule of thumb is to place your first buttonhole at your apex, also level with your apex, and then space your buttonholes out accordingly from there. The other thing I was doing with this dress was not putting a buttonhole directly on the center of the waistband or the waistband area. I knew I'd want to wear this dress with belts, and I just wanted to make sure that I didn't have any extra kind of like little lump button under the belt at the direct waist point. So that was something else I considered when putting in my buttonholes. All in all, I am in love with this dress. I think it is absolutely gorgeous. I am very happy with how it's come out. I'm very happy with the modifications that I made as well. You guys always want to see the inside of my dresses, so I will include some cutaways for you. I chose to fully line the bodice of this dress because this fabric is a little bit scratchy, and I can feel that on the back of my neck, but not to the point where I won't wear this. But I know what I'm like. If I hadn't have lined the if I hadn't fully lined the bodice, I can imagine that it would be a dress that irritates me, and when dresses irritate me I tend not to put them on. But that's the fabric, not the actual dress itself. The dress itself is gorgeous. Can't believe it's taken me this long to make it, given that I had the inspiration, had the fabric, had the pattern. Really glad that I decided to go through my colourful leaves first, because I love this. I think it is really, really, really lovely. It is a little bit big on the waist, but that is fine because it is nice to wear it without a belt in the warmer weather. This is quite a thick fabric, so I don't think this will be like over 30 degrees kind of dress. I do really like it belted. I am a fan of a belt. I feel that it adds another level to an outfit. I like matchy matchy. I will probably wear this with my tan bag and obviously my tan ballet flats, as you can see in the stills and the twirls that I did. I want to make this again, and I kind of fancy making this in a solid. I love all the prints, and the Megan Nielsen Matilda hashtag, I think it's hashtag MN Matilda, I'll link it in the description down below, is full of inspiration. I really like the solid ones because they definitely show off the style lines and all the top stitching and the extra details, like the yokes at the front, the pockets, the waistband, all those kinds of things. I do really like the solid ones, but again, we all know that I am a print lover, so this is definitely my favourite iteration. The one thing I will say about the pattern is the sleeve doodads. I commented on this in the waffle when I showed you a brief glimpse of this dress. They are just a little bit wrinkly, and it's not just me. The pattern doesn't ask for them to be interfaced. That was somebody's suggestion that they should have been interfaced. The pattern doesn't ask for that. They are cut on the straight of grain, and they are a straight piece. They are not a curved piece, and they are going into a curved seam or a curved opening. Whilst they fit perfectly and they do go in, I think that's where the little wrinkles are coming from. I actually did mine differently to the pattern. I sewed them on to the inside first with the pressed edge on the outside so that I could top stitch from the outside, and I've actually done that with the majority of the pieces that need to be top stitched, like the placket, the waistband, the collar stand as well. I have done it that way around because I have found that I get a much neater finish. Doing it the other way, you still top stitch from the outside, but it doesn't always, with the best will in the world, fabric moves and is slightly difficult to corral, especially around curves and small areas. So I have found in the past that by having the inside be the bit that needs to be sewn down, but having to top stitch from the outside because that's the bit that's going to get seen, that it doesn't always catch the inside pieces. And if you look closely at the inside of this dress, there are pieces on the placket where the top stitching on the outside, which is perfect, has kind of gone off-pieced on the inside. That is just because, you know, we're all human, things like that will happen. But because I have sewn it so that the inside was sewn down and then the outside was the bit that needed to be top stitched down to secure it into place, it doesn't matter that I haven't caught all of the inside pieces. And that's just my top tip for you. So it is slightly different to the instructions, but it is the way that I prefer to do things because I find that I get a neater finish on the outside, and obviously the outside is generally what most people see, except for you guys seeing the inside of all of my garments because you are curious, and I like that about you. The sleeve doodads, when I do them next time, I'm going to cut them on the bias and see if that makes them sit a little bit flatter. I have pressed these within an inch of their lives. I was considering top stitching this folded edge, but I'm not sure if that would make things worse, so I've left it alone for now. Without me pointing it out to you in this busy print, you're never going to really notice. I think if it was a solid, it would be a little bit more obvious. I really like the doodads that stick out. Usually I'm not a fan of shoulder doodads. They've been christened doodads. We know this from the McCall's 7537 debacle. I think that these ones I like because they are in a stiffer fabric maybe. These ones do help enhance the hourglass figure because we have the A-line skirt, the fitted waist, and then emphasizing the shoulders. So we're making the shoulders hopefully as big as the waist, which means the hips. Words are hard. Hopefully as big as the hips, which means that the waist gets contoured in even more. So I did grade between sizes. I did a size medium for the bust, a size small for the waist, and then out to a size medium again for the hips. I was a little bit worried about the pockets on the hips because the side of the pocket has to go into the side of the skirt. I was worried that by the little bit of grading that I had done out would skew the pockets, and it did a little bit, but the actual problem that I had was with the pocket bands. They needed to be a 3/8 of an inch longer, and I can't tell you why the geometry of that happens, but they did need to be 3/8 of an inch longer. This time around I managed to hide everything, all the little errors, with bias binding, which is one of the reasons I bias bound the skirt. I only had cream, I didn't have white. That slightly bugs me, but again, it's only you guys that are going to see the inside of this dress. I used bias binding to hide that excess, or that little bit that the pocket band was out by. Then the bottom edge of the pocket band again was slightly out, so I kind of just made this seam allowance at that point bigger, which kind of totally negates making the hips the size that they were. I think I took that away, but it worked. So I need to tweak the pocket bands for the next one, which I've made a note of now with you guys, so I will remember to do that. That was the only discrepancy. It's not a flaw. The pattern is drafted beautifully and everything that does fit together, like I say, but it was me altering things that ended up with that little discrepancy in there, so I will alter that for the next time. The other thing that I did is I drafted linings for the breast pockets, which do have little pleats in them, which in this really busy print are not that obvious. I'm thinking maybe I should have top stitched those pleats. That could have looked nice, but there does come a point where you can overdo it with the top stitching. The pattern said you could top stitch the princess seams as well, but I'm happy with the level of top stitching that I have gone for with this dress. I could have gone all out, but I kind of went 75%. So I'm thinking maybe that I should have top stitched the pleats on the pockets to make them stand out a little bit more, but you know, never mind, doesn't matter now. I did, as I say, draft a lining for those. That was really easy. I just folded the pocket piece in so that it was the dimension that it would be when it had the pleat put in, and then traced around that. One of the tips that it says in the book is to make sure that you're really getting your curves around the bottom edges of the pockets identical. I find that really, really difficult. I know you can draft templates out of thin plastic or thin something that you can iron over. You can press your pocket around that template to make sure that it is nice and even. That's definitely a method for doing it, but again, it leaves you with raw edges on the inside, which nobody's ever going to see. These pockets, I mean, whilst functional, I will never ever put anything in these pockets, so nobody would have ever seen the inside of these pockets. But I find it easier to sew a lining to it, trim it, turn it through, press it, and then top stitch it on. It has added a layer of bulk, but I'm using a thin cotton, so I thought it was worthwhile. And if you're using a slightly thicker fabric, you can always line it with something lighter weight in the same colour, or a print if you fancy it. The only thing you need to bear in mind with those is that you really make sure that you turn the edges under and you can only see the outer fabric. But again, I was doing mine all in cotton, this cotton, so that didn't really make a difference, because even if there was other bits, it kind of works in with the print. The list of fabrics that this can be made in is quite extensive, ranging from the cottons through to silks. I would be quite interested to see what this one looks like in a drapier rayon or silk fabric. A silk noil, which I know is not drapey per se, but that could be a really interesting one as well, sort of like the textured, yeah, like a creamy one with tan top stitching and coconut shell buttons. Coconut shell buttons in my head go with everything. I love them with this blue print, and also I love it with the tan accessories. So I definitely want to make this pattern again. I think it's gorgeous. I really enjoyed this though. The instructions were brilliant. As I say, I've changed a few things in the instructions and a few different ways of doing things, but that's purely and simply because of personal preference, not because I thought the instructions needed to be changed. But I am very happy with the result, and as I say, I think now third time I will make this again. This is definitely going to be something that I wear often and feel really put together in but comfortable in, which is awesome. I know there is a expansion pack for short sleeves to go with this, which I am looking into seeing if I can buy this by itself or if I have to rebuy the whole pattern. If I have to rebuy the whole pattern, I probably won't, because I have a lot of shirt dress patterns which have short sleeves on them. Short sleeves are not my favourite. I'm not sure if this has a long sleeved option or not. That would be awesome. That would be awesome, especially in the drapier fabrics. I wonder if I can smoosh, or just, you know, elongate the sleeves and add some cuff details with a tower placket. That would look really, really cool with all the top stitching. Yeah, lots of different ways of hacking this pattern. I love the fact that in the beginning of the instruction book as well, they give you a whole kind of like ideas for customization for this pattern, and I think that's a really nice thing, because as we've mentioned many times on this channel, sewing patterns are expensive, especially the indie sewing patterns. I want to get my money's worth from them. I love that they have thought about that and given you some options for pattern hacking. And again, they're just the beginning. You can come up with so many different ways of using patterns to kind of tweak them in different ways to make them work for you and your wardrobe and what you want to get out of them. So this is the third Megan Nielsen pattern I have made. I've used the Cascade skirt and I have used the Tanya culottes, both of which I bought on PDF, and then I also bought them when they released the new packaging, because I am a sucker for packaging and I think they are gorgeous. So I am, oh, I've made the Briar t-shirt as well. So this is the fourth one that I've made. I haven't perfected the Briar, but I will. I highly recommend the Megan Nielsen Matilda shirt dress. Very much enjoyed sewing it, very much enjoyed wearing it. There will be more, can you tell? So let me know in the comments down below what you think. What do you think of this fabric combination, and will you be making the Megan Nielsen Matilda? I'd love to know. So I hope you've enjoyed today's video. If you have, please give it a thumbs up. If you haven't yet, please subscribe, and I'll see you again very soon. Bye!